If you've been to any of the stores, you've seen the Victor electronic mouse traps. Today we're gonna jump in on how it works and is it worth using? Let's see. So let's talk about the Victor electronic mouse trap. Claims 100% kill rate, humane high voltage shock, no see, no touch disposal. And you know what? A lot of people really dislike seeing dead mice, so I think that's probably the biggest advantage that this has. So let's open up this box. And there is your station. You can see under here, you put 4 AA batteries in the bottom, and that's what charges the shock. You have your on and off switch. And then there's your chamber where the mouse goes with the shock pad. To set it up, they tell you to put some peanut butter or bait in the bait cup in the front. Close the lid and turn it on. Set it in the areas where you're seeing mice. And if this light is flashing green every 10 seconds, you've got a capture. Once you have a capture, you can pick it up, dispose of the mouse. If you don't want to look at it, you don't have to, and you don't have to touch it. Rebait it, set it back out, and you're good to go. Pretty straightforward to use, and if the shock works as well as they claim, it's still a humane dispatch for the rodent. One question we get all the time is, what do I do once I get a dead mouse? And there's no real perfect answer, but what we recommend is get the mouse, put it into a bag. If you're going to touch it, if you're comfortable, use gloves, wash your hands after, seal it up, and throw it out in one of the outside garbage bins. When something dies like this, it will get quite an odor and you will have quite a smell. So making sure it's sealed up in an area that's outside of your home is the best practice. So where do you place the Victor electronic mouse trap? The first thing is you want to identify where the activity is. You want to look for droppings, chewed or damaged food, and or rub marks from the mice. You want to put the bait in and you want to put it up along a perimeter because mice generally feel a lot more comfortable running against a wall or perimeter. And you want to make sure that this entry hole is right in line with where the mouse will be running. The other critical thing that you have to do is prepare the environment. And what we mean by that is removing any other food source so that the bait inside the trap is the only thing that will attract it for food. All right, let's jump right into both the pros and cons of using the Victor electronic mouse trap. Let's start with the pros. Right off the hop, no touch disposal is probably the biggest thing, and even having the ability to have a no sight disposal. If you put the faith in the light, you can open it up, dispose of it, you don't have to touch it, you don't have to look at it. But be careful, because if you're not checking the trap often, sometimes it's a small compartment and they may be a little bit stuck in there and you have to get something to pull them out. Just a word of caution. If you really don't like rodents, get someone else to do it. Accessibility, you can go to almost any hardware or home improvement store and you will find these traps there. So whenever you need them, they're easy to get. They are reusable, so you can just kind of keep them going. You can leave them out for prevention and just continue to use them. So once you purchase it, you will have a long life as long as the internal mechanisms and the parts with the electronics keep working. And of course, safety. It's actually a very safe setup for the trap. Only a mouse can get in there. It's not gonna have any issue like a snap trap may have if it's set out in the open, if you have children, pets, or anything like that. So those are all great pros to it. So let's jump into the cons. The biggest thing is going to be the cost. These are fairly expensive to purchase. They also do not come with batteries, so you need to add your own batteries, and of course you need to continue to replace the batteries when the battery gets low. So that's a really big consideration, because if you're spending $40 on one trap, you could probably go out and get 30 similar snap traps for the same price. You're going to cover a lot more area for about the same price and get results a lot faster. Just something for consideration. The consistent dispatch, it claims that it is a 100% kill rate and that it is a humane high voltage shock. And assuming that's true, that's great. Challenges that we have heard about is when the batteries do get a little bit lower, or if there's something with the bait touching the actual electrical pad, you may not have that consistent 100% kill rate. So that's just something to consider and test with and work through if you're using this trap. And of course, with any trap, you do have to clean them. When mice get into a stressful situation, or if they're being shocked and they don't die instantly, they will release urine and pheromones that put a warning out to other mice. This happens with any mechanical trap, including snap traps as well. So if you have a trap that was catching mice and is no longer catching mice, usually it's due to those pheromones. So you do need to go in there and clean it out so that there is no warning signal and the mice will continue to come in here. So you just have to be prepared that if you really don't like mice, you may have to go in there and still clean it for the effectiveness. Let's recap what we talked about today. So the pros: no touch disposal. You can purchase them almost anywhere. They're very accessible. They're reusable and they are quite safe when they're in the house. The mice, you put bait in here, the mice will come up the chamber, get a lethal shock and die. When you want to dispose of them, you don't have to look and you don't have to touch it. The batteries, it takes 4 AA's in the bottom, and it has the signal light on the top so you know when there's a capture and you know when the batteries are low. The cons, as we went over, can be quite expensive. The consistent dispatch if the battery power is waning, always something you need to be aware of, as well as you may have to clean this if mice stop going for it to remove the pheromones. So you might actually have to kind of get in there after mice have been dispatched. Overall, personally, consider spending the same amount of money and getting multiple snap traps. You're going to get the same humane kill, just as effective. And when you're dealing with an infestation, a lot of the time it's about how fast you can knock the population down. And just doing it one by one is a very challenging way. So if you need to buy multiple of these, your price is going up, you're spending more on batteries, and it can be a challenge. And with everything related to mice infestations, in order to really deal with them, you always need to find the entry point, remove the food sources, and make sure you're treating the areas where they're nesting. Areas like attics, wall voids, things like that, it can be a little bit challenging to use these products in those hard to access areas. So just something for consideration. If anybody's used these traps, has any questions, or has anything rodent related, we'd love to hear it in the comments.